The silk was still warm from the dryer when I pressed it to my face. My wife's blouse, jasmine-scented, impossibly soft, and for 3 stolen seconds I let myself disappear into it. Then I heard the garage door rumble open. I shoved the blouse back onto its hanger, shut the closet, and became Michael again. The dutiful husband. The guy who watches football and drinks beer and has never once imagined himself in a pencil skirt. That was the deal I made when I married Claire. Kill the secret, or lose the woman I loved. Simple math. Brutal math. I threw out every hidden piece: the lace camisole I kept in a shoebox behind winter coats, the black stockings rolled tight at the bottom of my gym bag, the panties I used to wear under my suit on days when the world felt like it was crushing me. I held each one for a final moment, then dropped it into a trash bag and knotted the top like I was sealing a coffin. Gone. Done. Michael wins. The other side of me goes silent. And for a while, the silence held. Our marriage was electric. Claire was stunning. Not just her face, not just her body, but the sheer radiance of who she was. Kind without being soft. Warm without being naive. She loved me with a ferocity that left bruises on my doubt. We couldn't keep our hands off each other. We'd fall into bed laughing and surface hours later, tangled and breathless, certain we had invented something no other couple had ever found. It was perfect. And perfection, I've learned, is the prettiest lie there is. Because the longing didn't die. It went underground, burrowed deep into the architecture of my chest, and built itself a nest there, pulsing quietly in the dark. And living with Claire made it worse. So much worse. Her wardrobe surrounded me like a museum of everything I couldn't have. Silks folded in drawers I passed every morning, lace bras hanging from the bathroom hook, skirts swaying on hangers every time I reached for my own dull shirts. I was drowning in beauty I couldn't touch, or rather, beauty I couldn't wear. So I started cheating. Not with a person, with fabric. I'd wait until her car pulled out of the driveway, count to 60, then drift upstairs like a ghost haunting its own house. Open a drawer, run my fingers across something delicate. Hold it against myself in the mirror, just for a heartbeat, just long enough to feel the ache ease before slamming the drawer shut and scrubbing my hands as if I'd touched something criminal. Just a taste, just enough to breathe. Today was one of those days. She had gone out for groceries, and the house was mine. I climbed the stairs, slid open her top drawer, and found the new pair, pink, with glittering letters across the back, that spelled out a playful little phrase. On the front, a heart shape traced in sparkle. I lifted them free and pressed the silk between my fingers, letting the softness sink in. I held them against myself, watching in the mirror how they caught the light. Then the bras. A new one, also pink. Textured, padded, sculpted with care. I raised it to my chest and studied the reflection. The straps, the band, the shape of it against me. I imagined the gentle pressure, the way it would hold and define. The wanting was so sharp it blurred everything around me. Everything, including the sound of her footsteps. I looked up. Claire stood in the doorway, watching me with an unreadable expression. "What are you doing with my bra?" she asked. "Imagining what it would look like on you," I said, the lie falling out before I could think. "I don't think so." She shook her head slowly. "The way you were holding it, pressed against yourself like that, you wanted to wear it. You really wanted to." She crossed to the dresser, pulled open the drawer, and glanced inside. "Someone's been through this. Again." Her voice was calm, almost clinical. "It's just the two of us in this house, Michael. And every now and then, I find things shifted around, moved, touched." She paused. "I've always wondered." I stood frozen. No alibi, no angle. She had me cold, and we both knew it. She reached in and drew out a pair of pink panties, held them toward me. "If you love my things this much, then wear them. Put these on." "Claire, come on. Don't be—" "I'm serious. You've been sneaking through my drawers since the beginning. So let me see." There was no escape. No graceful exit. The only path was forward. I undid my belt, stepped out of my pants, then stripped down completely. She had seen me bare 1,000 times, but this felt different, raw, exposed in a way that had nothing to do with clothes. I took the panties from her hand and pulled them on. The silk slid up and settled around me, and the sensation flooded through like warm water. My emotional response was immediate and impossible to disguise. "Your face says one thing," she observed with a quiet, knowing smile. "But the rest of you tells a completely different story." She tilted her head. "You really do love this. Have you ever worn a bra?" "No," I lied. "Well, no better time than now." "Claire, I get the point. I won't go through your things again." "Michael." Her voice softened. She stepped closer, kissed my cheek, and let her hand rest gently against my chest. "Put on the bra for me," she whispered. The request stunned me into stillness. Then I moved. I pulled off my shirt, slipped my arms through the straps, and fastened the clasp behind my back in one smooth motion. She raised an eyebrow. "That was not your first time," she said. "Nobody hooks a bra that easily without practice." A beat of silence. "You've done this before. All of it. The whole transformation. Haven't you?" I nodded. There was nothing left to deny. "You like becoming her," she said quietly. Another nod. My defenses were tissue thin. "All right. Put your clothes back on." Relief surged through me until she raised a hand. "I didn't say take anything off. Just put your pants and shirt on over what you're wearing." I obeyed. On the outside, the same Michael as always. Underneath, a different story. Silk and lace pressed against my skin, and the woman I loved fully aware of it. The rest of the day unfolded as if nothing had changed. We carried groceries in from the car, put them away, tidied the house, the usual weekend rhythm. She spoke to me in the same tone, with the same easy warmth. Nothing strained, nothing awkward, just the quiet hum of ordinary life, with an extraordinary secret humming beneath it. But that night, when we climbed into bed, something shifted. "Tonight," she said softly, her eyes warm with invitation, "you can be my girlfriend." She smiled, drew me close, and lay back. "Just like that," she whispered. We were tender with each other that night, discovering a new dimension of closeness I had never imagined possible. When at last she drew me close, she guided me onto my back and wrapped herself around me in a way that felt entirely new. "You're so pretty," she whispered, her fingers tracing the soft fabric against my skin. "So feminine. I'm so glad you're my girl." The tenderness in her voice broke something open inside me. We had never been this close. Not like this. Not on this frequency. I loved it. The whole thing was electric. She had stepped into my deepest fantasy and turned our intimacy into something I never knew it could be. Afterward, we lay tangled together, breathing slowly. Then she slipped out of bed, went to the closet, and returned with a pink nightgown. She handed it to me and put on a matching one herself. We fell asleep in each other's arms, two silhouettes in silk. Sunday morning arrived soft and unhurried. We drifted downstairs, still in our nightgowns, and made breakfast together. Eggs, toast, coffee, as if this were the most natural thing in the world. Then we headed upstairs to clean up. "How about a bath instead of a shower?" she suggested. "Sure," I said. She ran the hot water and added her scented oils. Within moments, the room smelled like a garden of fresh-cut roses. We settled into the warmth together, washing each other's backs, kneading shoulders, savoring the easy closeness of skin against skin. I was rinsing my face when I heard a faint buzz. I opened my eyes. Claire held her pink razor and was already gliding it across my chest. "What are you doing?" "Making you presentable," she said matter-of-factly. "A bra doesn't look right over a hairy chest. You'll be much prettier without it." I sat perfectly still while she worked. My pulse quickened, not from the razor, but from what it meant. She wanted me in a bra again. Yesterday had been a slow, exquisite build of anticipation, the hidden lingerie beneath my everyday clothes, winding me tighter with each passing hour until bedtime, released everything at once. Today promised the same beautiful tension. Arms up, dear. I raised them. She cleared away the hair underneath, then rinsed the blade and started on my legs. Tufts floated across the surface of the bathwater like small surrendered flags. By the time she finished, I was smooth from collarbone to ankle. We had to shower quickly afterward just to rinse away the remnants. I wiped the tub clean, then stood before her, bare, smooth, transformed. She handed me her afterbath splash, then her powder-scented deodorant. I applied both. The fragrance settled against my skin like a second identity. At the dresser, she held out the same pink bra from yesterday. Textured, lightly padded, familiar now. "Go ahead, dear," she said. "Pick out a nice pair of panties for yourself." I chose the ones with the glittery lettering. They slid on like a whispered promise, even better than I had imagined. And without the body hair, the bra looked right. Genuinely right. My emotional response was instant and undeniable. I pulled on my regular clothes over everything, and we slipped back into the rhythm of a normal day. "There's a sale today," Claire announced. "We're going shopping." "But I smell like roses," I protested. "Stay close to me. Nobody will think it's coming from you." Fair point. I grabbed my car keys and moved toward the driver's side, but she stepped in front of me. "No," she said. "I'm driving." She walked around and held open the passenger door, the way a gentleman does for his date. I climbed in. She closed it behind me. Sitting on the wrong side of my own car felt strange and quietly thrilling. At the department store, we made our way upstairs to the women's floor. Claire browsed with her usual focus, pulling pieces from racks, holding tops against herself to check the fit. Then I noticed her reaching for items several sizes larger than her own. The realization landed softly. Those were for me. My wife was standing in a crowded store, calmly selecting women's clothing for her husband. And because she was the one doing it, there was no shame, no furtive glances, no racing heart at the register. Just a woman shopping for someone she loved. "What do you think of this one?" She held up a purple camisole. "Very cute," I said. "You'll look wonderful in it," she whispered, pressing it into my hands. By the time we left that floor, she had picked out 6 tops, a sweater, 2 skirts, 2 pairs of women's trousers, and we had moved on to shoes. She chose 2 pairs, stylish but subtle enough that I could wear them in public without drawing attention. Most people would never notice. We loaded everything into the car, then walked back into the mall and straight into a lingerie boutique. There, she selected a dozen pairs of panties in assorted styles, a slip, a garter belt, and 2 pairs of nylons. I watched in quiet elation as she steered us toward the bras. "With your broad shoulders, you'll need a D or a DD, she said, scanning the display. "DD, I answered without hesitation. "Very good." She began pulling selections. Everyday bras, a bustier, and then a corset. It was getting late, so we dropped everything at the car and went to dinner. Over the meal, Claire quizzed me on the outfits of women who walked into the restaurant. What worked, what didn't, and why. The girl in the camisole and fitted jeans with short-heeled boots. That was a sharp look, balanced and intentional. But the woman in the overly formal skirt paired with a casual top, that fell apart. The pieces were fighting each other. I was absorbing lessons I had always wanted to learn, delivered by the best teacher I could have asked for. Our final stop was a specialty shop. Claire told me to wait in the car. She disappeared inside and emerged a few minutes later carrying a large bag. "What's in there?" I asked. "Breast forms," she said, "and a few other things." I stared at the bag in her lap. Something to fill out my bra. The transformation was gaining shape, Literally. I could barely contain myself. After going so long without it, the thought of curves pressing against fabric again made my pulse race. Claire was, without question, the most extraordinary wife a man like me could ever hope for. We got home and carried everything upstairs. I wanted to tear into the bags immediately, but Claire shook her head. First, we organize. She was right, of course. We needed to clear space, which meant sorting through my old wardrobe, pulling out things I rarely wore, or that had quietly gone out of style. It took hours. By the time the closet was done, we were both exhausted. Claire sat on the edge of the bed and looked at me. When you're fully dressed as a woman, what do you call yourself? The question hung in the air. I had never said it aloud. Not to anyone, not once in my life. But standing there in our bedroom, surrounded by pink bags and tissue paper, it felt safe. It felt real. Lily, I said. Lily, she repeated softly. That's beautiful. A new door had opened between us. We stepped through it together that night. Tender, unhurried, discovering each other again through this unfamiliar lens. She whispered my new name like a secret she was honored to keep. Oh, Lily, you're so beautiful, she breathed. So feminine, so perfect. You're everything I wanted. Afterward, I slipped into my new nightgown and curled against her. Sleep came easily. Monday morning shattered the weekend's spell with the bark of an alarm. I showered quickly, then stopped short at the bedroom door. Claire had laid an outfit across the bed. A white bra, white panties, a white blouse, and my usual slacks and jacket beside them. You want me to wear those? To work? Of course, dear, don't be silly. A woman doesn't leave the house without a bra. A jolt ran through me. The day before, walking through a department store with lingerie hidden beneath my regular clothes had been intoxicating. The quiet danger of discovery sharpening every sense. By the time we got home, the tension had built so high that her first touch nearly undid me. If a shopping trip could do that, what would 8 hours at the office feel like? Besides, the blouse she had chosen was deliberately understated. Nothing about it screamed feminine. With my jacket buttoned over it, nobody would look twice. I dressed in the outfit she had selected and drove to work. Walking through the lobby felt surreal. I was carrying a secret against my skin, and the whole building was oblivious. I called Claire the moment I sat down at my desk. Just remember, she said, every time a woman walks past your office, you're just like her underneath. Every secretary, every colleague in a business suit. Beneath the surface, you and she are the same now. The day passed without incident. Not a single glance, not one raised eyebrow. That evening, Claire met me at the door. She had me remove my jacket and slacks and replace them with a pair of the women's trousers we had bought over the weekend. Then she steadied my chin with her fingertips. Hold still, Lily. Lipstick. A muted shade. Barely noticeable unless you were looking for it. You'll wear this around the house from now on, she said. The color was subtle, but its effect on me was anything but. Every piece of my clothing was now feminine, even if the world would never guess. By the time we climbed into bed, I was a live wire. We kissed deeply, and she slipped her tongue against mine. A small electric surprise that sent the whole night spinning. Tuesday brought a new outfit laid across the bed. A similar blouse, fresh bra and panties, and something new, pantyhose. Wednesday, she swapped in a thong. It pinched and shifted all day, but I survived. When I got home, she asked how work had gone. Nobody noticed a thing, I said. Told you. She pulled out a chair at the kitchen table. Now sit down, I have something for you. She produced a small glass bottle. Nail polish. I extended my hand, and she began to paint. Careful, precise strokes I had never attempted during my solo days of dressing up. This was new territory. I chose this shade because it's almost identical to your natural nail color, she explained. No variations, no shimmer. Nobody will know. It looks so shiny, I said, watching the wet gleam. That's because it's still damp, silly. Give it a minute? She was right. Once it dried, the polish was nearly invisible. Just a faint, even smoothness where my nails had always been rough. Thursday at the office, not a soul noticed. Friday, I added a long, dangling necklace tucked beneath my shirt. Invisible. Some men wore chains anyway, so even a glimpse would mean nothing. By Friday evening, my anticipation for the weekend was almost unbearable. Saturday morning, we stood together in the shower and shaved our legs side by side. Claire smoothed a depilatory cream across my chest. It stung briefly, but she assured me it would do a far cleaner job than any razor. Once my skin was smooth again, she let me step into a skirt for the first time at home. The fabric swirled against my bare legs, and I felt a rush of something close to joy, followed immediately by disappointment when I caught my flat silhouette in the mirror. "Please," I said. "Can I wear the breast forms now? The bra looks so empty." "Shh." She pressed a finger gently to my lips. "Soon." Then she sat me down at her vanity and went to work. Foundation first, blended carefully across my skin. Then eyes, shadow, liner, each step deliberate. She explained every choice as she made it. Why this shade? Why this angle? Why blend upward and never down? Lips came next, then a dusting of color across my cheekbones. The final touch was mascara, darkening my lashes into something that framed my eyes with quiet drama. "Pay close attention," she had said at the start. "You'll need to learn to do this yourself." I stared at my reflection, amazed at what she had done with my eyes. Shadow and liner had reshaped them into something softer, wider, almost luminous. I silently hoped I could replicate it when my turn came. "Naturally," Claire said, touching up my nails with a fresh coat. "You'll stop trimming these so short. Let them grow out. And your hair, too. It'll take time, but once it's long enough, I'll teach you how to style it properly." I nodded. That was a long road. Months, maybe years. But something about the patience it required felt right, like growing into a new skin rather than simply pulling one on. With my face fully done, Claire led me upstairs. In the bedroom, she presented a pair of pumps, sleek, black, with 5-inch heels that looked both beautiful and terrifying. "Have you ever worn heels before?" "No," I said. The truth this time. I was done hiding from her. "That's all right. I'm going to teach you. Start by just getting your feet in and standing still. Once you've got your balance, we'll work on walking. You're going to need an entirely new way of moving now." I slipped my feet in and buckled the straps. She must have bought these separately. I hadn't seen them during our shopping trip, and they fit perfectly. Some specialty shop that carried larger sizes, I guessed. Seeing them on my feet sent a thrill through me. I stood up for the first time in heels and nearly toppled backward. The floor felt miles away. How did she make this look effortless? She had me start with balance. Arms out, weight centered, finding the stillness inside the wobble. Good. Now look at your posture. Spine straight, shoulders back, chest forward, like this. She adjusted me with small, firm touches. Better. Then came the walking. It was ugly, choppy, uncertain, my ankles threatening mutiny with every step. But Claire kept me at it for a full hour, coaching, correcting, encouraging. By the end, my legs burned and my lower back ached in places I didn't know existed. "Don't worry, Lily, you'll get there. Someday you'll be running up and down these stairs in heels without a second thought, but it takes practice. From now on, whenever we're home, you're in heels." I nodded, wincing. This was going to hurt, but I wanted it, badly enough to push through. That night, wrapped in each other's warmth, I felt more feminine than I ever had. And it was good. Sunday morning followed our new ritual, breakfast in nightgowns, then a shared shower. Afterward, Claire dressed me in the women's trousers and one of the subtler blouses, paired with the understated shoes. Everything female, nothing obvious. We headed out. At the department store, my confidence faltered. The clerks in the women's section would recognize their own merchandise. They would know what I was wearing. I found myself drifting behind clothing racks, angling away whenever a saleswoman approached. But Claire handled it beautifully, drawing their attention, keeping the conversation on herself, shielding me without making it look deliberate. I loved her for it. We left with more lingerie, tops, trousers, a few skirts, a corset, a bustier, and a girdle for shaping. I had no curves of my own, so structure would have to do the work. At lunch, I reached for the menu and pointed at the burger. "No," Claire said gently. "Salad." "Salad? We're putting you on a program, Lily. Diet and exercise. We need to sculpt you into the right shape. After this, we're buying workout clothes and a sports bra." We did exactly that, then moved on to groceries, normally her domain, but now a shared task. She selected soy milk and explained that certain plants contain natural compounds that echo estrogen's effects. She added a bottle of black cohosh supplement to the cart. "You'll start taking these," she said simply. "They'll help with the transition over time." Back home, she let me try on the new black skirt with the top we had chosen to match it. Then came the real test, applying my own makeup. She had me practice on her face first. The result was a disaster. Uneven foundation, lopsided liner, blush that looked more like a rash. But she walked me through every mistake with patience, and when I tried again on my own face, the outcome was passable. Not good, but no longer catastrophic. Progress lived in the gap between awful and mediocre. Heels went on next, and then drills. Claire called out commands like a choreographer. "Sit, cross your legs, stand, find your posture. Walk, tight steps, weight forward, hips fluid, turn, walk back, sit again," over and over until the movements started to feel less like performance and more like instinct. By the time she told me to stay seated, I was drained. She disappeared and returned carrying a bag. I opened it and pulled out a wig. Blonde, shoulder length, beautifully realistic. I settled it onto my head and looked in the mirror. The transformation was stunning. Long hair reframed everything: my jawline, my eyes, the makeup she had taught me. A different person gazed back. "Very pretty, Lily," Claire said, standing behind me. "Soon you'll pass so naturally that we'll walk out together and nobody will know." A rush of warmth flooded through me. Anticipation, gratitude, desire, all tangled into one. We spent the rest of the day as girlfriends, cooked dinner side by side, watched a movie that made us both cry. Then upstairs. Tenderness, closeness, the quiet intimacy that had become our new language. We removed our makeup, slipped into nightgowns, and fell asleep folded together. Monday's alarm hit like a slap. I dragged myself to the shower, dried off, and found the now familiar sight. An outfit waiting on the bed. White cotton panties. Bra. I was reaching for the trousers when Claire stopped me and placed something small and cool into my hand. Thin silicone breast forms. A cup. "Go ahead," she said. "Put them in." "I thought I was going to be a Dee, I said, turning the thin silicone pieces over in my hands. "You will be. But a girl doesn't wake up one morning fully developed. She starts small and fills out over time. So will you." I slipped them into the bra cups. They were so slight they barely registered. A whisper of shape beneath my shirt. Nobody at the office would notice. But knowing they were there, knowing I had the faintest suggestion of curves pressing against fabric as I typed emails and sat through meetings, that was enough. The secret hummed against my skin all day. The week unfolded like a slow escalation. Tuesday, Claire swapped my trousers for women's pants. Wednesday, the same pants paired with a soft, neutral blouse, and no jacket allowed. Every stitch on my body was female, inside and out, and I walked through the office doors holding my breath. Nobody blinked. Thursday. The jacket returned, but she added a thin layer of foundation to my face. Friday, a barely there wash of beige eyeshadow. I survived each day undetected. The transformation had been so gradual, so carefully calibrated, that it had slipped beneath everyone's awareness like fog rolling in. Saturday brought our ritual shower. We stood side by side, shaving our legs, the steam curling around us. Then Claire knelt and carefully shaped me into a neat, trimmed rectangle that mirrored her own. Afterward, in the bedroom, she painted my toenails. Hot pink this time, vivid and unapologetic. With my little A-cup forms in place and a casual skirt swishing against my smooth legs, I spent the entire day fully feminine. It was bliss. That night, she didn't bother undressing me. She simply rearranged what needed rearranging and drew me close. "Oh, Lily, you're becoming so feminine," she breathed as we moved together. "I'm so glad you're a girl now. I love you so much more now that you're female, too." Sunday morning brought a gift. I was fastening a new bra, white with pink trim, undeniably pretty, and reaching for my breast forms when Claire caught my wrist. "I have something better." She handed me a box. Inside, larger forms, B-cups. "You'll be wearing these from now on," she said. "Your feminine side is developing beautifully. As you grow more into yourself, you'll be rewarded. I'm starting to think of you as my girlfriend now. And girlfriends don't stay flat forever." "Thank you," I whispered, sliding them into place. The difference was immediate. My bra cups filled out with real presence, and when I pulled on my top, there was visible shape beneath the fabric. I felt a swell of pride, followed instantly by panic. "Can I switch back to the A-cups for work? These are noticeable." "No." Claire's voice was gentle but firm. "When a girl develops, she doesn't shrink back down. These stay. But don't worry, keep your jacket on, and nobody will see a thing." Fear and excitement braided together inside me. The thrill of passing, the knife edge of discovery. "One more thing," she said, uncapping a slightly bolder shade of polish and taking my hand. "From now on, I'm calling you Lily. Not just at home. Always. You're a woman to me now." Something warm and bright opened in my chest. This was my deepest fantasy made real. Not just permission, but partnership. My wife wasn't tolerating this. She was building it with me, layer by layer, day by day. I had never been so happy. That evening, as I reached for my nightgown, she stopped me and held out a jar. "Night cream. Same one I use. You want to keep your skin soft." Then she handed me a tube. "And this. Spread it across your chest." What does it do? It's a supplement cream. It works with the black cohosh and the soy. Over time, combined with everything else, your skin will soften, and your chest will start to fill out slightly. It's slow. Months, not weeks. But every bit helps. I smoothed it on and watched it absorb into my skin. Lying back against the pillows, I felt a flicker of uncertainty. Did I want to go that far? Permanent change? But then I imagined it. Real curves filling a neckline, the drape of fabric falling naturally over genuine shape. How beautiful that could be. "I wish you had real ones," Claire murmured, resting her hand on my chest. "As full as mine." I drifted off with visions of transformation dancing behind my closed eyes. The work week tested my nerve. Monday morning, I walked into the office with B-cups and noticeably polished nails. Nobody said a word, but my pulse ran high all day, which only fed the anticipation, so that by the time I got home, I pulled Claire close the moment the door shut behind me. Tuesday, she handed me a new blouse. The front was unremarkable, but the cuffs were ruffled. Delicate, unmistakably feminine. Mercifully, the sleeves ran a touch short on my frame, so the ruffles disappeared under my jacket. Now the jacket was truly non-negotiable. Visible curves and ruffled cuffs in the same outfit would be impossible to explain. Wednesday raised the stakes again. Claire laid out the white corset we had bought on that very first shopping trip. I had never worn it. It cinched tight around my midsection, compressing my waist into a narrower line and creating the suggestion of curves where none existed. The first hour was uncomfortable. The boning dug into my ribs, and breathing required a conscious effort. But by midday, my body had adjusted, and the constriction became almost pleasant. The effect was subtle but real, and dangerous, because the women's trousers I wore to work every day were cut high on the waist, designed to follow contours. Jacket buttoned at all times. No exceptions. The corset also changed the way I carried the breast forms. Instead of the bra holding them from above, we used adhesive to fix them directly to my chest. The support came from underneath now, and the sensation was entirely different, more natural, more present, as if they belonged to me. And as a final flourish, Claire added a garter belt and the black silk stockings from our first shopping trip. Every step I took sent whispers of fabric sliding against fabric, a quiet electric current running from ankle to hip. Claire called me at lunch. "Hi, Lily, how's work today?" "Fine," I said, keeping my voice low. "I've been thinking about you all day." "Me too, girlfriend. I can't wait to see you tonight." A pause. "Listen, I have an assignment for you." "Sure. What is it?" "You go out with the guys for lunch most days, right? That stops now. From here on, you eat with the women, the secretaries, the assistants. Unless it's a business meeting, your lunch companions are female." "Okay, I can do that." "And pay attention," she continued. "Watch how they sit, how they listen, how they hold their forks, and tilt their heads and touch their hair when they laugh. Learn their rhythms, absorb everything. On weekends, I want to see those skills coming through." Thursday morning, after I dressed, Claire uncapped a small bottle of perfume and touched 2 delicate dabs to my neck. The scent floated in my awareness all day, soft, floral, unmistakably feminine. I realized I needed cover, so I bought a bouquet and set it in a vase on my desk. If anyone commented on the fragrance, the flowers would take the blame. Claire told me perfume was now permanent. I was going to need a lot of flowers. Friday, I wore women's shoes. My jacket was the single remaining piece of male clothing on my entire body. The rush was extraordinary. A full day in public, dressed almost entirely as a woman, hidden only by androgynous styling, and the studied indifference of colleagues who saw what they expected to see. That night, the tension that had built all week broke like a wave. We made love twice. Saturday morning, after our shower, Claire made an announcement. "You've earned an upgrade, Lily." She handed me new breast forms, C cups. The difference was dramatic. My bra filled out completely, and my reflection suddenly had dimension. Real, unmistakable shape. I couldn't stop looking. After lacing the corset, Claire put me in women's jeans for the first time. Tight, sculpted, following the cinched waistline, then a powder blue cashmere sweater, cropped and fitted. It clung to my new curves, like it had been tailored for them. I stood before the mirror in disbelief, wig on, makeup done, heels buckled. I looked feminine. Genuinely, undeniably feminine. We went out, and the highlight came at a small boutique where Claire sat me down and had my ears pierced. She chose diamond studs, elegant but restrained enough that plenty of men wore the same. "You can't remove them for a while," she said, "or the holes will close. When you're ready, we'll get you dangly ones, hoops, things more suited for a girl." Sunday we shopped again, this time with me in a skirt. More clothes for my growing wardrobe, and a few pieces for Claire, who joked that she was getting jealous of my expanding collection. Then we ducked into an intimate specialty shop where she picked out 2 matching personal items. "What are those for?" I asked. "You'll find out when the time is right." "When's that?" "Soon, my love." She also bought something she refused to show me. "A surprise," she said. I had learned to trust her surprises. They always pushed me somewhere thrilling. That night, we were tender with each other, and afterward, I lay in the dark turning something over in my mind. Most husbands I knew complained about distance in their marriages. Claire and I had none. We were intimate every single night. I was living inside my deepest fantasy, fully supported by the woman I loved, but a thread of worry had begun to pull loose. Tomorrow, I would walk into the office with C-cups, visible shape beneath my jacket, earrings catching the light, nails growing longer with each passing week, the polish more obvious. Someone would notice, someone would say something. This had started as a game, exhilarating, private, controlled. But somewhere along the way, it had begun to feel less like play and more like trajectory. Claire wasn't just indulging a hobby, she was building something permanent. And lying there in the dark, I felt the first real tremor of doubt. Could I stop this? Should I? But it had been so wonderful. Each day better than the last. Each new step deeper into a version of myself I had craved for years. And after everything Claire had done, the patience, the shopping, the teaching, the love, how could I tell her I wanted to turn back? I owed her more than that. At least enough to keep going. Monday morning, I dressed for work. As always, my jacket was the only male garment on my body. I was afraid. My earrings glinted. My nails had grown noticeably longer, the polish harder to dismiss. And beneath the jacket, my new C-cup forms pressed outward against the fabric in a way that no amount of buttoning could entirely conceal. No matter how I angled myself in front of the mirror, shoulders forward, arms crossed, jacket tugged tight, the shape was there. Unmistakable to my eyes, at least. Curves where a man's chest should be flat. More makeup than before, and the faint trail of perfume drifting from my collar. They would see. They would smell it. I walked into the building trembling and went straight to my office. I kept the door closed all day, positioning myself behind the computer screen whenever someone knocked. I was too frightened to join the women for lunch. By 5 o'clock, I was convinced that whispered conversations had already begun in hallways I couldn't see. Tuesday was worse. Claire added blush to my face for the first time on a work morning, a soft warmth across my cheekbones that felt to me like a spotlight. I hid again, declining meetings, eating at my desk. Wednesday broke the pattern. Claire called mid-morning. "Hello, Lily." "Hi," I said quietly. "Listen, I'm meeting you for lunch today. I want you to invite one of the women you've been eating with. This isn't a question, it's a command." The word landed hard. Something in her voice had shifted, a new edge beneath the sweetness. "Yes, of course." "Great!" The warmth flooded back instantly. "Harper's Kitchen, 11:30. I'll see you two girls there." So I left my office, walked down the corridor to where Donna sat and invited her to lunch. We drove together to the restaurant, where Claire was already waiting. The meal was pleasant. Easy conversation, light laughter. I spent the entire time braced for a slip, certain Claire would call me Lily in front of Donna. She never did. She was flawless, warm, and completely in control. I loved her for that tenderness, and by evening, I ached to be close to her. Upstairs in our bedroom, she told me it was time for the surprise. "What is it?" "I want you to undress from the waist down, then stand still and close your eyes." I obeyed, pulse racing with anticipation. I felt her slide something over one foot, then the other. Something thick, structured, like sculpted leather. She drew it up my legs, adjusting straps near the top. Then she leaned close, and the tenderness of what followed was overwhelming. Intimate, slow, deliberate, until release came in a shuddering wave. "Keep your eyes closed, Lily." I felt something cool and metallic settle snugly into place below, fitted around me with precision. A quiet click, and it was done. "Open your eyes." I looked down. She had placed me in an intimate, sculpted garment, smooth, contoured, designed to give me a completely feminine silhouette. A small, elegant lock held it gently in position. The key rested in Claire's palm. "Don't worry, honey. I'll let you out in a few days. Imagine how much anticipation you'll have built up by then." "I guess," I said, uncertain. "And look, there's a cover piece that attaches here." She fastened it over the front, connecting it to the straps. The effect in the mirror made my breath catch. For the first time, the reflection between my hips was entirely, convincingly, feminine. When she pulled up my panties, they lay smooth and flat. The full weight of what this meant didn't hit until Thursday morning. Claire laid out trousers with a far more feminine cut than anything I had worn to the office, and shoes with a noticeable heel and a pointed toe. My body stirred at the thought, but the familiar physical response couldn't manifest. It was held in place, contained within that smooth form. I looked at her helplessly. "Women experience arousal differently," she said with a calm smile. "I'm helping you understand what that feels like." How could I argue with that? Work grew more terrifying by the day. My jacket was the last wall between me and exposure, and I was increasingly convinced that wall had cracks. Someone must have noticed by now. Someone must have said something to someone. But the real test arrived on Friday. The last Friday of each month was casual day. No jackets. Claire's chosen outfit: fitted women's jeans, heeled boots, and the tight powder blue cashmere sweater. "I can't wear that to work," I said. "You can," she said, her voice sharp, "and you will. Everyone will see. They'll know I'm. Sooner or later, they're going to know you're becoming a woman." The words hit me like cold water. I stood in the bedroom, my reflection staring back at me. Curves, earrings, polished nails, feminine silhouette from head to toe. And for the first time, the fantasy cracked open to reveal something I hadn't bargained for. This had started as play, a private thrill, a game between two people who loved each other. But games have endings, and this one didn't seem to. "If you can't even show off your C-cups," Claire continued, "what are you going to do when you're a Dee?" "No," I said. "This has to stop. Now." She took a step back. Hurt spread across her face, or something that looked like hurt. "After everything I've done for you, after everything I've taught you, everything I've given you, I made you so happy, and this is how you repay me?" "Claire." "No, Lily. You listen to me. I have done so much for you. And I had so many plans for you, Lily. I've already booked a consultation. Implants. Real ones. You won't have to fumble with those awkward breast forms anymore." "Implants?" The word came out hollow. "You want me to have implants?" "Yes," she said, smiling as if announcing a birthday gift. "Dee? Just like you wanted." "You want me to have real—" "I want you to be a girl, Lily." The room tilted. I opened my mouth, but nothing came. She watched me struggle for words, then sat on the edge of the bed and folded her hands in her lap. "When I was little," she said, her voice drifting into memory, "I loved playing with dolls. I'd dress up my Barbie, style her hair, make her beautiful. I adored it. But one day I took my brother's action figure and put him in Barbie's clothes. I gave him a little skirt, drew makeup on his face with markers. He became her girlfriend. They did everything together: cooked, cleaned, went shopping. My brother was furious when he found out." She laughed softly. "But it was the most fun I ever had." I stared at her, my eyes wide. This hadn't started with me. This had started decades ago, in a little girl's bedroom, with a plastic doll and a fistful of markers. "I thought those days were behind me," she continued. "But then I found something better. A live doll. Someone I could dress and shape and transform into the girl I always wanted to create. You see, Lily, you aren't the only person in this house with a lifelong fantasy. You dreamed about wearing the clothes. I dreamed about putting them on you. If you stop now, you won't just be ending your fantasy. You'll be destroying mine. You'll break my heart." Her eyes glistened. "Please, Lily. Please let me keep turning you into a girl." I loved her. I loved her so deeply that the thought of causing her pain felt like swallowing glass. Maybe I could go into work in the outfit she had chosen. Maybe it wouldn't be as bad as I imagined. But first, I needed to understand the scope of what she was building. "Just how far are you planning to take this?" I asked. "All the way," she said without hesitation. "You're going to live as a woman full-time. Not part-time, not weekends only. Every day. For now, you keep everything as it is. But once you've been on hormones for a year, we'll talk about whether you want to complete the transition. Together. No pressure. But I think by then, you'll want it as much as I do. A tremor ran through me. Deep, tectonic. I loved the clothes. I loved feeling feminine. But standing there, listening to Claire map out a future I hadn't consented to design, I realized for the first time that she was further down this road than I was. Far further. She wasn't following my fantasy anymore. I was following hers. I caught my reflection in the mirror. Curves, makeup, polished nails, earrings catching the light. And the person staring back was already more woman than man. The fear was real. But I couldn't face it yet. Not now. I changed the subject. If I walk into the office looking like this, people will talk. There'll be rumors. It could get ugly. No, there won't, Claire said calmly. How can you possibly know that? Remember our lunch with Donna? I called her that afternoon. We've spoken several times since, on the phone mostly. I told her you were transitioning, and she said most of the women in the office had already suspected for weeks. She spread the word quietly. Everyone's been watching your transformation unfold day by day, and they're ready. They'll be supportive. But my boss, she'll fire me, or... She already knows, Lily, and it's against the law to discriminate. Your job is safe. I stood motionless, processing. The safety nets had been strung without my knowledge. Claire had been working behind the scenes, preparing the world for a version of me I hadn't fully agreed to become. She handed me my purse. I looped it over my arm in a daze. There was no concealing the C-cups swelling beneath the cashmere sweater. The makeup was visible. The jeans were cut for a woman. The heeled boots clicked against the floor. A handbag was the least conspicuous thing about me. I walked through the office doors, and Pam, one of the secretaries, looked up from her desk with a warm smile. "Hello, Lily." "Hi, Pam," I managed. "Why don't you come out to lunch with the girls today?" "Sure," I said, and the smile that broke across my face was involuntary and genuine. She knew my name, which meant everyone knew my name. The whole office had been waiting for this day, not with dread or mockery, but with quiet readiness. Even my boss. She called me in mid-morning. "Lily, I understand you're going through a significant change right now. I want you to know I'm here if you need anything." She paused. "I do want to mention, now that you're presenting as a woman, I'll expect you to dress in line with the office dress code for women. Professional attire. You understand?" I nodded. She was kind, genuinely kind. And as the day unfolded, so was everyone else. The women folded me into their routines as if I had always belonged there. Lunch conversations, hallway chatter, the easy shorthand of female coworkers who share space and time. Being accepted as one of them, not by Claire alone, but by an entire office full of women, filled something inside me I didn't know was empty. That night, I was still wearing the intimate garment she had placed on me days ago. After I held her close, she was playful and inventive, exploring the new landscape of our intimacy with a tenderness that made me feel truly seen, truly known. "Soon," she murmured against my skin, "you'll feel exactly what I feel." Saturday morning, after our shower and the now familiar ritual of shaving our legs together, Claire sat me down and opened a new box. D-cup breast forms. "You've earned these," she said. "Your feminine side has developed so fully that I don't think there's much maleness left in you. If any at all. Your mind is crossed over. It's time your body caught up." She placed them into my bra, and the transformation was startling. The fabric stretched taut over their generous volume, the cups straining to contain them. There would be no concealing this. No jacket, no clever layering, no strategic arm crossing would disguise the fact that I was unmistakably, visibly busty. I pulled on a tight black turtleneck sweater and studied the mirror. The curves were dramatic, commanding, impossible to ignore. A strange cocktail of pride and vertigo swirled inside me. We went shopping at a boutique that specialized in women's business wear. I selected my first suit, a blue pinstriped pencil skirt with a matching fitted jacket, paired with two feminine blouses. Then a gray ensemble with a longer skirt, more conservative but still polished and unmistakably professional. Finally, a trouser suit in dark navy. I was a career woman now. I needed a wardrobe that said so. Then we moved on to shoes, a full expedition. We tried on pumps, mules, wedges, strappy sandals, everything the store had in my size. Claire picked out a new pair for herself too, and we made a game of parading up and down the aisle together, comparing silhouettes in the low mirrors. After weeks of daily practice, walking in heels had become second nature. Claire had drilled me relentlessly, up the stairs, down the stairs, turn, pivot, stop. Going up, I had learned to place just the toe on each step, letting the heel hang free over the edge, then lifting straight and clean so the heel didn't catch. Going down had been the real battle. Early on, I had clutched the banister like a lifeline. Now I could glide down without touching it, my weight rolling smoothly from step to step. "Time for the final challenge," Claire announced when we got home. "I've set up a tray with 4 glasses of water. You're going to carry it up and down the stairs without spilling a drop. We'll start with plastic glasses. Once you've mastered that, you'll graduate to the good crystal." "Ready?" I said. "Good. This is what separates walking in heels from truly owning them." It took practice, balance, posture, core strength, the quiet discipline of keeping my upper body absolutely still while my legs did the work. But by the end of the session, I was sweeping up and down the staircase with the tray held high, every glass full to the brim, not a single tremor in the water's surface. Sunday was pure indulgence. We went to a spa, facials first, lying side by side on padded tables while warm towels and fragrant creams worked their quiet magic. Then manicures and pedicures together, our chairs close enough that our elbows touched. My nails had grown noticeably longer over the past weeks, and they looked genuinely elegant now. I chose a deep crimson polish this time. Bold, unapologetic, impossible to mistake for anything natural. No more hiding behind neutral tones. From the spa, we drifted to a jewelry store. I picked out 2 rings, one delicate silver band, one with a small amethyst setting, and a pair of dangling earrings to replace the plain diamond studs that had served their purpose as training wheels. I lingered over a diamond tennis bracelet that caught the light like frozen rain, but our budget for the week was already in ruins. Another time, back home, Claire had yet another surprise waiting. She produced a strap-on from a bag she had hidden in the closet. She fastened it on herself and approached me slowly, her eyes full of warmth and quiet reassurance. Every movement was gentle, deliberate, giving me time to adjust. It was larger than the personal device I had grown accustomed to, but she was patient and there was no discomfort, only a strange, unfamiliar pleasure that opened somewhere deep inside me. When she finished, she reached back into the bag and pulled out a second one. "What's that for?" I asked. "For you," she replied. I felt a surge of restrained yearning. The device she had fitted me with days ago held everything in place, preventing the old familiar response. I ached for the closeness we used to share in the traditional way, but she guided me gently into something different. A new form of union that asked something unfamiliar of me. And so I gave it, moving through an act that felt both foreign and illuminating, discovering a tenderness I hadn't known I was capable of offering from this angle. I was no longer approaching this as a man. "Please," I whispered, "release me. Let me be close to you the old way." "You are close to me," she said softly. "When your transition is complete, this is what intimacy will feel like. I want you to understand it, to live inside it." "I love it," I told her. "I love feeling like a woman." "Then you already know who you are," she replied. She was so kind to me. I loved her beyond any words I had. Monday morning, I dressed in my new blue pinstriped suit, the pencil skirt falling just below the knee, the fitted jacket nipped at the waist, the feminine blouse with its delicate ruffle at the collar. Underneath, my fanciest garter belt held dark nylons taut against my smooth legs. I stepped into my highest heels, pointed toes, slim stiletto, and buckled them with the confidence of someone who had carried crystal up a staircase without spilling a drop. Wig on, full makeup applied with a steady hand that had improved dramatically over the past weeks. I studied myself in the mirror. The woman looking back was polished, professional, and unmistakably female. At the office, I was met with smiles. "You look wonderful," Donna said from her desk. "Thanks, so do you," I replied. "I love that blouse." "I like your suit. You'll have to tell me where you found it." "Absolutely. We can talk at lunch. I've got a meeting with the boss first." "Cool, see you then." I walked past my desk and straight into my boss's office. She was waiting, and she complimented my outfit as I sat down and crossed my legs the way Claire had taught me. Ankle tucked, posture straight, hands folded. We talked about my career trajectory, my goals, and where I saw myself in the coming years. Then she made an offer I hadn't anticipated. "How would you like to become my assistant? I'd groom you for management." "I'd love that," I said without hesitation. She walked me through the responsibilities, and my enthusiasm dimmed slightly. "It sounds like I'd essentially be your secretary," I said. "You will be, at first," she replied. "But you'll be learning how I operate day to day. The administrative work is the foundation. Master that, and you'll move up. Think of it as an apprenticeship." I smiled. She was generous with her time and patient in her explanations, just like Claire. I practically floated back to my desk and called Claire immediately to share the news. My first day presenting fully as a woman, and I had already stepped into a new role, sitting among the secretaries, answering to a female boss, folded seamlessly into the fabric of women's work. During the week, I settled into my new duties: filing, scheduling, fielding calls, managing my boss's calendar, the quiet, invisible labor that kept everything running. And at home, Claire had another project in mind. "I can still detect a trace of something in you," she said one evening, studying me carefully. "A little flicker of masculine pride. It's subtle, but it's there." I was taken aback. I thought I had moved past that entirely. "What can I do about it?" I asked. "I have a suggestion," she said. "What if you served me, fully, as my maid? You'd cook, clean, manage the house. Everything. It would teach you to let go of the need to be in charge. You'd learn the kind of humility that comes naturally to women who spend their lives caring for others. It would burn out whatever's left." "That sounds perfect," I said. I meant it. If there was still some remnant of the old Michael lurking inside me, I wanted it gone. She was so thoughtful, offering to help me like this. "Excellent." Claire took my hand and led me upstairs. Laid across the bed was a red maid's uniform she had already purchased. Fitted bodice, flared skirt cut high on the thigh, layers of frilly white lace at the hem, the cuffs, the collar. I slipped into it and turned to the mirror. It was playful and pretty and showed off my legs beautifully. "When I ring the bell," Claire said, her tone shifting to something more formal, more precise, "you come to me, immediately. No matter where you are, no matter what you're doing. You do whatever I ask, because you are serving me. Do you understand, Lily?" "Yes," I said, eager to begin. "And since you're in my service now, you'll address me as Ms. Harrington." Her maiden name, not Claire, not Honey, Ms. Harrington. "Yes, Ms. Harrington," I said. "When the phone rings, you answer by saying, 'Harrington residence.' If someone asks who you are, you tell them you're just the maid. Is that clear?" "Yes, Ms. Harrington." "Very good, Lily. Now go downstairs to the kitchen and fetch me a glass of water. When you bring me something, I expect it on a tray." "Yes, Ms. Harrington," I said, and hurried down the stairs, heels clicking on every step, skirt swishing against my thighs, eager to prove myself. I set a glass on the tray, filled it with ice water, and carried it upstairs without so much as a ripple on the surface. She drank, set the glass down, and dismissed me with a wave. "You can start with the dishes." And so the shape of my days crystallized into something I could never have imagined a few months earlier. Mornings, I dressed in my business suits and went to the office, where I sat at my desk outside my boss's door, answered phones, organized files, and moved through the quiet choreography of secretarial work. I ate lunch with the women. I gossiped about weekend plans and swapped opinions on shoes. Then I drove home, changed into my red maid's uniform, and served Claire, cooking, cleaning, polishing, folding, attending to every bell and every command. 2 roles, both feminine, both consuming, and I loved every hour of it. The skirts, the heels, the jewelry catching light when I turned my head. The ritual of makeup each morning, foundation, shadow, liner, mascara, lips, my hands now steady and precise. Plucking my eyebrows into clean arches, choosing earrings that matched my outfit, feeling nylons whisper against smooth skin as I crossed my legs at my desk. It was everything I had ever dreamed, and it was my actual life. One morning, Claire told me to call in sick. "I have a surprise for you," she said, and that familiar sparkle in her eyes made my pulse quicken. I had learned to trust her surprises completely. She had me dress simply, sweatpants, a loose sweater, and we drove across town. She pulled into the parking lot of a low, modern building shared by dentists, orthodontists, and various specialists. We walked through a door, and my heart seized. The waiting room was lined with before and after photographs. A plastic surgeon's office. I turned to her, eyes wide. "That's right, Lily," she said. "Today you're getting your implants. Real ones. Real. Not silicone forms glued to my chest. Not inserts tucked into padded bra cups. Permanent, living, mine." Claire had already handled the preliminary consultations. She had been to this office twice before, she told me, filling out paperwork, discussing options, making sure everything was medically sound. All that remained was for me to sign the consent forms and lie down on the table. I was trembling as the anesthetic crept through my veins, pulling the world into soft focus. My last conscious thought was that when I woke up, I would be closer to the woman I was becoming than I had ever been. I surfaced slowly, like rising through warm water. The first thing I registered was weight, new, unfamiliar, magnificent weight on my chest. I touched myself gingerly. The fullness was astonishing. DD. At last. Through the gauze of lingering sedation, I heard Claire's voice mingling with the doctor's. Fragments reached me like radio signals drifting in and out of range. "And I can write that estrogen prescription we discussed," the doctor was saying. "There's no medical reason to delay. I'm also prescribing a testosterone blocker to suppress the remaining male hormones." Hormones. The next step on a path that now stretched clearly into the distance. Tears slid down my temples and pooled in my ears. Whether they were joy or surrender or something tangled between the two, I couldn't tell. "We'll want to wait approximately a year," the doctor continued. "After that, she can return, and we'll complete the final procedure. She's going to make a wonderful woman." Claire leaned over me, her face soft and blurred at the edges. "Did you hear that, Lily? You're on your way. Soon, you'll be real." The months that followed passed in a cascade of firsts, each one more thrilling than the last. My first low-cut sweater, the deep V framing the new cleavage I had earned, drawing glances I no longer feared but welcomed. My first morning going braless, just to feel the freedom of it, the shape of me visible beneath thin cotton. My first bikini at the beach, after my first wax, lying on the sand beside Claire, 2 women soaking up the sun, indistinguishable from any other pair of girlfriends. The estrogen was rewriting me from the inside out. My skin grew softer. My emotions deepened. Colors brighter, music more affecting, tears arriving faster and without apology. I was eager for the full transformation to settle, impatient for every change the hormones promised. Claire and I made plans, real ones, permanent ones, the kind you build a future around. Before starting the hormone therapy, We had taken careful, hopeful steps to preserve the option of a family. Claire had spoken with a specialist weeks before my surgery, and we had set things in motion so that one day we might have a child together. I want us to be ready, she said, her voice full of quiet certainty. What if it doesn't work? I asked. What if it doesn't last? Then we'll find another way. There are always other ways. We'll have our baby, and we'll raise her together. Can you imagine it, Lily? We'll be mommies, both of us. And when? I asked. After the wedding. I refused to be pregnant in a wedding dress. She laughed. But before our second honeymoon, I'll do it. How does that sound? Perfect, I said, and kissed her. Because that was what we were now. Two women, completely in love, standing at the beginning of a whole life together. I had walked into this marriage hiding the deepest part of myself in a locked drawer. And Claire, patient, brilliant, relentless Claire, had found the key, opened it wide, and built a world where that hidden self could finally live in daylight. I looked at her across the kitchen table, our hands intertwined, and I understood something I had been too afraid to name for years. I hadn't been pretending to be a woman. I had been pretending not to be one. And now, at last, the pretending was over.